Well, NBL is back, and isn't it grand? Round 10 started with a bang last night, a big bang for the Illawarra Hawks, who thumped the New Zealand Breakers by 38 points in the gong. NBL Now, we're here to wrap that up, look ahead to the rest of the round to come, and it's great to have NBL action back to talk about. Joel Peterson, as always on a Friday, I'm joined by Damon Lowery. Morning, Damon.
JP, welcome back, man. Or are you still over there chasing fish?
No fish. I'm not at home. I'm in the great town of Bendigo up in central Victoria. I've got my best mate Adrian's wedding today, of all things. So big congrats to the big moose, but no fish, unfortunately. That was an abject failure on my part. But we move on, we live and learn, and we roll back into NBL hoops this week, which is very exciting. You were on the call last night. And I reckon there would have been a tinge of excitement in your voice throughout. I certainly noticed it with the Illawarra Hawks doing an absolute number on the New Zealand Breakers. 109-71 they start the weekend with. And really, I mean, they had the game wrapped up at quarter time. It was an obliteration in that opening term. New Zealand were undermanned. They weren't going to fight back from that. How impressive was that performance from the Hawks?
Yeah, an obliteration, a splification, a devastation.
A destroyation.
Every Asian that you can think of, the Hawks laid it down. I felt like it was one of those games that the Hawks needed to win and in good fashion. Obviously, New Zealand Breakers, Joe, there's some issues there, man. We'll probably talk about it a little bit later. But from the Hawks' point of view, well-balanced, man. They have a scoring formula. They go inside, outside. Players are rarely playing out of position or playing not to their strengths. They get out in transition. They don't have an offensive flaw. They really don't. They just got size across the board, depth. It's when they're playing like that and playing defense, it is a thing to watch. And they made a slight statement. I'm not going to say a big statement, but a slight statement to the rest of the league.
It was a sentence that didn't end in a question mark. That was for sure for the Illawarra Hawks last night. They changed the lineup, so Justin Tatum inserted Mason Peatling into the starting lineup. Darius Days came off the bench. Sometimes the starting lineup's a little bit overrated in what he adds. It's who you close the game with. We know that. But is that something that he can roll with? Or is that a sort of a one-off tinker that maybe will sort of revert to the mean over time?
We might tinker with it for a few more rounds. I didn't mind it. Mason Peatling brings high energy. He's a guy that only plays maybe 7 to 8 minutes a game. And I'm thinking if you're going to get those 7 or 8 minutes, you might as well give them to him at the start. Get off to a really good start. Now, Darius Days, I feel like he's putting too much pressure on himself. He doesn't need to be Gary Clark. Let that be understood. Gary Clark was first-team All-NBL last year. Darius does not need to be that. This team is that good that Darius can still just fit in. One game might be 15. Another game could be 22. Could be 10. It's no big deal. He's the leading rebound on the team with 8. He's getting 11 points. Okay, as far as imports go, if you didn't have such a stacked roster, we would be looking at you with the side eye. But this roster is stacked. Darius just needs to stay out of foul trouble and just let the game come to him a little bit. He doesn't need, like I said, to be first-team All-NBL.
Yeah, he's interesting. His interview last night and some of the interviews with the Hawks players really interesting in the post-match and talking about Justin Tatum, repeatedly referencing him, without being prompted, talking about how they just get along. Matty and Brad did a good job to sort of paint some of the picture out of that win last night in the post-match. One who was the first interview, who's the Foot Locker player of the game, was Lachie Olbrich, who had career-high 21 points. Not too many minutes for Lachie, coming off Boomer's representation. I love him. I love his game. He's absolutely in my stable. I was really pleased to see him do what he did last night. Could he be set for a big second half of the season, coming off Australian duties in that FIBA break?
I feel like Lachie he always plays this way. Like he's just high energy. And South Australia to somehow let him go. Kudos to Matt Campbell for getting Lachie to the gong. But like that 6'11", mobile, athletic big that just plays, man. He's got a nose for the ball. He offensive rebounds, he defensive rebounds. He's cagey around the basket. He just knows how to kind of manipulate the defense and get these kind of off-balance looking, weirdly fundamental shots to go in for him. I like everything about his game. And he even hit a free ball last night. I mean, that's a part of his game that we haven't seen a whole lot of. Now, as far as boomers, I think he's a future boomer. Maybe not World Cup boomer, but hey, who knows? In the Olympics, the next Olympics roll around, if Lachie's healthy, it'd be hard to go past him.
Yeah, it's an exciting prospect for the young man out of Adelaide. The New Zealand side of it. Now, this is going to be a fascinating sort of weekend for them because they play Perth on Sunday. How on earth do they bounce back from that?
JP, this is serious, man. You cannot go messing with the sanctity of the locker room. Man, this is going to be my last rant about this too, by the way. I'm going to move on. But management took it upon themselves to tinker with a team that needed no tinkering with. Coach Kapanen had his squad playing the way he wanted. He had that nice Euro flavor thing happening. Freddie Gillespie was leading the league in blocks. Just a good piece, right? 7-3, and you go and bring in Taco Fall. Okay. Now, it also happened to coincide with Jonah Bolden being hurt and Kareem Lopez being arrested for some unknown reason. I don't get that. The guy's healthy. He's 17 years old. Nothing wrong with him. So now I don't feel like Kapanen is 100% on board with Taco Fall. I'm just going to say it. Of course he's going to coach him. Of course he's going to still be a professional. But you can't tell me in your heart of hearts he is on board with this move. So now it's going to be another readjustment phase. They have to play completely different. The way we got used to seeing the Breakers play, they can't play like that no more with Taco on the floor. So you're either going to play him 12 minutes a game, and in those 12 minutes, slow it right down, get real methodical, which is detrimental to PJC and all the athletes that they have, or completely, like I said, look at playing some zone or some kind of weird stuff. This is a Breakers team, Joe, we don't even know anymore.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you've gone with there. It's a strange one, and to break up what they had and the way that they were playing. You could understand. You know, if Petteri Koppen wasn't on board with this, and some of the players weren't on board with this, I think that'd be perfectly understandable, and almost strange if that wasn't the case.
100%. It's going to take an adjustment phase. Now, obviously, guys are getting paychecks, and they got to get on with it. So Matt Mooney, he was extremely disappointing last night, thanks to Wani Swakala Bullock. PJ Steve still managed to manifest a few points, 17, or I think he got 19. But they obviously, like I said, Jonah Bolden is huge for that team. Even though Jonah is not averaging big numbers, he allows Sam Meninga to be able to play a different kind of a role offensively. When you got two guys at that size, you can shoot the ball and stretch the floor. So I'm going to still need to wait and see until they get their full troops back. But that was not the New Zealand Breakers we saw last night.
Yeah, it could turn around, but the proof will be in the pudding for the Breakers, and it'll be in the win-loss. And yeah, with that trip to Perth on Sunday coming up, that is very, very tough indeed. Righto, let's get into our game previews because there is a big round of hoops coming up. We won't hit every game. We'll hit sort of the main points out of a lot of them. Tonight, the first game, Cairns and Sydney. Gee, it's been a rough sledding for the Taipans. They just need some bodies back. Hopefully the breaks allowed them to get their stuff together. The Kings had shown some signs of life, but it's been an up-and-down season for Brian Goorjian's. Man, what do you expect out of these two teams coming out of the break?
I expect the Cairns Taipans to get this win, Joe. I just feel like they're at home. Yep, they're at home. It's always a tough road trip going up north. Now, apparently, there's some reports that Kylan Galloway isn't playing. But everybody else is. We might see the closest to a full roster we've seen the Taipans play with. And if you catch them on their day, and I feel like Rob Edwards, we know what he's going to do. If Taron Armstrong, another couple of games under his belt, Pedro Bradshaw comes back into the lineup, the Kings have showed me absolutely nothing that would suggest that they should just go there and just get an easy win. They are a team that's trying to figure themselves out, and the season is they're running out of time. They're small. I've always said that was going to be their biggest issue. Cam Oliver is only playing half of a game, if that, maybe more, but they're too small. So if the Cairns Taipans can play their style of play, tough up-and-in defense, I feel like they might have some depth. They could give the Kings some problems. And again, that road trip is not easy. So don't be surprised, Joe, if the Taipans get the dub.
I like it. It's a bold prediction. The Kings are far from trustworthy. And big slamming Sammy Wardenberg's coming off a big performance for New Zealand during the FIBA window. So hopefully he can recapture some of that form. Just on Kyron Galloway too, it's an ankle for him. So the club said that they expect that he will be there around next weekend, but not available for their game this week. Big weekend out west for the Perth Wildcats. They've got a home doubleheader at RAC Arena, which is pretty unusual for them. The first of those matchups comes tonight for Perth. They take on an undermanned Brisbane, so no Deng Adel, no Jared Bairstow. The injuries keep mounting up for the Brisbane Bullets. I think the questions here are around Perth. Can they find some consistency over the back end of the season? What do you expect from them, Damon?
I feel like Perth will get this win. Now, obviously, it's a bounce-back, payback game because the last time these two teams met, James Bateman just captivated Australia and just opened up the almightiest can of whoop-ass we've ever seen against the Perth Wildcats. So the Perth, just based on that alone, they got a point to prove. Now, James Bateman's not going to drop another 51, but I'm sure he's going to test him out. Now, one would argue that Brisbane haven't had Deng Adel all season. He's just been that out of form. Jared Bairstow, a little bit of a tough out, but the big one is Josh Bannett. That's huge. That means we're going to see a two-headed monster, a lot of minutes out of Big Rocco Sikorsky and out of Terrell Harrison. Them two are going to have to feature a lot. And I'm sure Justin Schuler would prefer not to play them together that much, but I don't see where he has much of a choice. So Casey Prather's back. He's going to have to really step up, and we know what the imports should do for Brisbane. Perth are who they are. They are a team that can score well at home. All the role players and bench players do their thing at home. They are not a good perimeter defensive team, with the exception of Ty Webster. Now, if John really is serious about addressing the defensive issues in the backcourt, Ty Webster should play 25 minutes a game. If he's not, then it's just words. It's just empty words to me because I feel like John is in two minds. Johnny really loves the offensive high octane that Ben Henschel and Elijah Pepper can provide, but doing that, you're going to give up. You're going to leak some points on defense. Ty Webster is not going to score a whole lot of points, but he's going to make a whole lot of other stuff happen and be that defensive beast that I feel like they need. So we're going to see which way Johnny prefers. But Bryce Cotton having two bad games in a row against the same team, unlikely.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like that is going to happen. So a big weekend for the Wildcats and for Brisbane, a massive test for them tonight in the late game. That takes us to Saturday and a huge question in the late game on Saturday. The first game, Southeast Melbourne take on Illawarra. Of course, first time we've seen the Phoenix since the break. We'll touch on that in a moment. But really, the question probably on everyone's lips heading into this weekend is what on earth does Adelaide look like without Montrezl Harrell and without Kendrick Davis? Both missing through suspension, the leading scorer in the league. Harrell's up there as well. He's the leading rebounder in the league. And they take on a Tassie team that can put the clamps on defense. I don't exactly know what we'll see on Saturday night.
Wow. Isn't it all about timing? Tasmania, who don't score a whole lot of points as we know, they catch Adelaide just like this. I mean, Adelaide Entertainment Center, that is a fortress. We can't remember the last time they lost in there. Sometime last year, but they got a hell of a winning streak going on at home. Joel, it's going to be hard to manufacture these kind of points. So Kendrick Davis and Montrez, just say 55 to 60 combined with assists and everything included, right? And Lat Man is injured. So we're going to see Jason KD get a lot of playing time at the point. DJ Vasiljevic is going to have to be the biggest flamethrower he's been in quite a while without those other guys. And Isaac Humphries and Jarrell Martin. It's time to step up, big fella. Now, that three-headed monster they have in the front court been a little bit quiet. They've been in the big shadow that Montrezl Harrell casts. Now there are no excuses. Don't be getting in early foul trouble, Ice Humphries. Jarrell Martin, you've had a few games now. It's time to step it up a little bit more. So if them two big guys can go to work on Will Magnay and possibly Fabian Krislovich, they should have an advantage, Joel, on the inside. On the perimeter, I'm going to go with the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, and I feel like the Tassie will come out with that win and break that almighty winning streak the 36ers got going at home.
Yeah, so at the top of my dome, I think it's December 9 last year. They played the Cairns Taipans. That might have been their last loss. So it's basically over a year. They have not lost at home in the year 2024, the Adelaide 36ers. And it just seems like things may be starting to break right for Tassie. So they've got their full squad. They sort of had a clean run through the break. They've won 2 in a row. They found a little bit of offensive mojo, even if their numbers aren't crazy good. They've got Sean McDonald with a game and a couple of weeks under his belt now. Do you reckon that the tide's starting to turn for Tasmania?
It's definitely turning a bit. Now, defense always will keep you in games. And Tassie have been playing defense all season, bar one game against the Hawks. But all season, they have been defending very well. Now, it's only a matter of time before Jordan Crawford and Milton Doyle connect on the same day. It's only a matter of time. Will Magnay has been in great form. Would still like to see him just offer more. That's just because that's the kind of guy I am, Joe. Just give me more. Give me a monster game, Will. A 30-17 kind of game. And now all the rest of those guys, Majid Deng, Anthony Drimmick, all those other guys, the complementary pieces, if you will, it's only a matter of time. So I feel like Tassie is definitely trending, and you might want to step on them while they're a little bit down, but you might have already missed your shot. You might have. But it's still going to be a big ask to make it into the top 6.
Yeah, it's going to be a big task indeed. Just quickly on Southeast Melbourne, so the early game on Saturday, Josh King's had, an extended period of time now with them over the break. Do you think that's a benefit for them, and will they look a little bit different coming out of this?
I think they will. I mean, Josh hasn't had a chance to do anything with his team. He's hit the ground running, literally. So this is almost be like a preseason mini camp for him. All his players are healthy. Everybody should be good to go. So, yeah, they should come out and be very spirited, but they've got the Illawarra Hawks coming to town. And the last time Illawarra Hawks was in Melbourne, they touched them up. Sam McKinnon had the reins back then, but Southeast Melbourne Phoenix were still playing some good basketball. So I'm tipping the Hawks in that one, even though I'm expecting a very tough contest.
Yep, and then we get to Sunday, so we won't go into depth on these games, but with Heritage Round, of course, is next weekend. We see some great uniforms. We saw the Hawks one last night. We've got Melbourne and Sydney and New Zealand and Perth to lead us into Heritage Round, 2 of the biggest rivalries in the game, especially in the modern era. It's just a fun little wrinkle. That's going to be a fun Sunday of hoops.
Yeah, Heritage Round is always good. You get to reminisce, get to throw out some old school names and check out the old uniforms. So that should be a good one. Melbourne is just rolling. What can you say? I mean, if Chris Golding is, look, what can you say? The guy just don't miss. He's on one of the most almighty shooting streaks we've ever seen. So I'm expecting him to just continue that kind of form. And it's going to be tough for the Kings. And obviously that New Zealand doubling up that back-to-back game for them guys, given what they're going through. Even though I tipped New Zealand, Joe, I want to rescind my tip from yesterday. I'm going with the Perth Wildcats to beat the Breakers.
Yeah, I think we'll allow that. Hey, Damon, have a good weekend. I'm really looking forward. Next Friday, Heritage Round, I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of Hawks regalia that you come up with. That's going to be a highlight of my week. Enjoy your weekend of hoops, and look forward to chatting to you soon.
Have a good one, man.
Damon Lowery with us on NBL Now. Thanks for your company. All the action, of course, on ESPN across the course of the weekend. The NBL app, nbl.com.au for all the latest news. We'll see you next week.